Day 2. The Hearing. Part 1.
The committee acknowledges the chair and the participant. This hearing shall commence at 10 hours on this day, November 29th, 2019. Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I was only planning on calling my mother anyway, so naturally I was happy to put that off.
Do I detect a sense of sarcasm?
Sorry, no, you detect a sense of disdain.
For this hearing?
Among other things.
Like?
You.
Shall we proceed?
Absolutely, please. I'm actually very busy in my line of work. You must know that, right?
The chair acknowledges the public gallery and asks that order be kept. Mr. President, can you tell us about the conversation that took place between you and the Secretary of State on July 4th this year?
Absolutely. If it's the conversation I think you're referring to, it'll be the one where I instructed the Secretary of State to eat her own hands, in accordance with an executive order I gave the day before.
And what was that executive order?
The day before?
Yes.
It was essentially an executive order that asked the Secretary of State to eat her own hands.
Could you tell us how the signing of that executive order came about?
Well, somebody prints out the order, the press all gather around, I use something, usually a pen, which they keep for me in a very nice drawer, and then...
Sorry, Mr. President.
Well, I'm just a little confused as to your line of questioning.
My apologies, Mr. President. I mean how the order came about in the first place.
Oh, I understand.
You understand.
I understand now. So, as
take your time.
I don't need to take my time. I got this, trust me. Now, I was elected on a key promise. A promise to allow the great people of this country a decision, well, a choice, on the hands of the Secretary of State.
That's unusual, right? To give that choice, such a big choice to the country.
No, I don't think so, no. We had campaign research that suggested, well, implied, that people felt this was a reasonable solution to previous mistakes made by previous Secretaries of State. And when something is that big of an issue, it's only right that we take it to the country.
I see. What was the result?
Well, I'm sitting here and you're calling me president, so you tell me.
Could you be direct, sir?
No, absolutely.
Please just try to answer the questions as succinctly as possible. This is a very serious matter.
I understand. I apologize. Look, I was elected on a key promise and I was willing to follow it through to the best of her ability.
Her ability.
The ability of the Secretary of State to eat her own hands.
I see. Thank you. The chair yields to Senator B.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. President.
Morning.
What can you tell us of the policy before the election?
Well, as I'm sure you're all aware, there had been certain questions as to how the Secretary of State had used her hands in the past.
Such as?
I don't want to get into the details here, but the gist of it was that this was once a very well-respected person, area, role. He is very well-respected once upon a time, but since then we have seen a significant decline in this person, area, role. He is very significant, a big decline. Now, once a reputation goes, it's only a matter of time before certain questions start being asked. Questions such as, do we need a Secretary of State? Now, yes, I think we do, and I believe that the great citizens of this country believe we do too. No, the question was how could we improve on this relationship, and we found that the election gave us a decisive yes to the idea of the Secretary of State losing her hands, and that it should happen through her own eating of them. And so we took the necessary steps.
Steps?
This was a democratic order. I signed the papers. It passed. That is democracy.
Since that vote, haven't we seen a shift in views somewhat?
No, I don't think we can trust the polls, do you? The same polls that I wouldn't be sat here.
Mr. President, do you at least agree with some of the evidence which showed at the time that this act would both inhibit the ability of the Secretary of State to work and cause considerable physical and mental
I'm
pain.
going to stop you there. Those experts, okay, they were guesstimating, to borrow a popular phrase. Look, it was up to us not to study this thing so much, just to simply get it done. Yes, get it done. To see that it was done properly, and a success made out of it. That is democracy.
It all sounds a little pig-headed, don't you think?
No.
Can the views change?
Yes.
Have they?
No.
Not any?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. President, just for the record, you are stating that you do not believe one view has changed since the election, or indeed since the order signing, or let's say in the last hour, minute. Not one view in the entire country?
Not one. As far as I know.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. The chair yields to Senator C.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, for being here today. And I want to thank you for the work you've done this past year. We appreciate it. And I have to say, I find this hearing frankly unconstitutional and a deliberate tactic on the part of the then party to undermine this government and the us party.
Thank you, Senator. I have to agree with you there.
Thank you. Nevertheless, can you clarify one thing for me?
Since I'm here, why not? I'd love to.
This measure, was it taken lightly?
No, look, levity aside, absolutely not. I understand fully the implications of what this will do. I use my hands all the time.
And you believe, do you not, Mr. President, that this was done for the better of the country, and so it's necessary?
Absolutely. For the better, I believe that.
Not to mention the great implications on our nation as a whole.
Exactly that, Senator.
Is it true that you were, at one time, not in favor of the policy?
No, that is overstated.
Mr. President.
I thought you were meant to be on my side.
Mr. President.
That is somewhat true.
Why then did you change your mind?
Oh, I see where you're going with this. No, I changed my mind because it was the will of the people. And I will enact the will of the people. That is democracy.
Thank you. Chair, I move to suspend this hearing on the grounds of insufficient evidence.
Overruled. There are still questions to be asked. They will be heard.
I yield.
Thank you. The chair yields to Governor D.
Mr. President, what were the overall figures of the election policy, the vote tally?
I don't have them on me.
All right, well, roughly, Ben.
Roughly, I would say 49% to 51%.
A little divisive.
Extremely decisive.
I said divisive.
Oh, I thought you said decisive.
No, divisive.
Divisive. No, I don't think so. I think that in the end, most issues become bipartisan, and democracy is democracy.
Meaning?
Well, meaning most people wanted the Secretary of State to just get on with it and eat her own hands. We find that people will put aside their views, their votes, to see that democracy is put into course, because they know that above all else, the preservation of democracy is fundamental, whatever the issue.
Whatever the issue.
Whatever the issue, absolutely. No matter how destructive, however irrational, however permanent. The only duty I have is to the great people of this country. We politicians, we don't decide. We represent. Now, whether you want the president, either me, how am I going to eat my own hands? Whether we want the Secretary of State to eat her own hands or not is besides the point. I signed the order because the country asks me to.
51%.
Exactly. That is democracy.
Well, it sounds tyrannous.
Well, I wouldn't like to say.
Oh, you don't have an
You'll
opinion.
forgive me for not implying my
I'm
party is
simply
tyrannous. You'll forgive me
trying
for
to-
not doing that.
I'm interested in what you consider to be decisive. A margin of 2% is decisive.
One vote is enough.
Did you vote in the election, sir?
Of course I did.
So you had some hand in it.
I had one vote. I wouldn't call that tyrannous.
And yet, as you say, one vote is enough.
Absolutely. Democracy.
Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. We are going to take a short recess, but before we do, the President would like to read a statement on the Secretary of State. Is that correct?
That is correct.
This relates to her current condition.
That is right.
The Chair yields to the President.
My people, yesterday morning at 9:02 a.m. precisely, I ordered the Secretary of State to begin enacting the democratic will of the people, in line with Executive Order 951 under the Will of the President Act 2019. I can confirm that the Secretary of State successfully ate her own hands.
The public gallery will yield.
I'm certainly giving her a big hand. Now, come on. I can confirm that the Secretary of State successfully ate her own hands after 17 hours. During this time, she fainted 7 times, only had to receive a small amount of pain medication, and only 2 blood transfusions. 2, remember, only. She began with the thumb. But this proved very difficult, extremely brave, but very difficult. Now, after 3 hours, she started from the pinky. This proved more of a success, and the other digits followed soon after. Flesh, blood, muscle, nerve, ligament, and bone. Now, she is currently in emergency care, but is said to be in good spirits. I have yet to visit her, but I mean to as soon as this hearing has concluded. Now, I have instructed my team to issue the footage of the Secretary of State's brave actions, and they are brave, extremely brave, to the citizens of this great country to access. And it will also be posted online for the citizens of the world to view. Now, my friends, this is no small act, and it will change us. But it was a success. It is democracy, and this party has ensured the greatest possible outcome. Now is not the time for argument. We must come together as a nation to help the Secretary of State through this new and exciting time in her life, indeed in all of our lives. There has been some talk that she will not be a part of this administration moving forwards. I want to say that that is categorically untrue, fake news. She is a valued member of this government and will remain so. She is a valued member and a proud defender of this nation, as we should all aspire to be. I hope to lead with as much courage as she has clearly shown. God bless her. God bless all of you. And God bless our great, great democracy. The President yields.